This episode is brought to you by Muntons Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntons has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntons offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntons malt. You know, we've known the Muntons crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntons malts, or homebrewers can pick up some right now online at txbrewing.com. Join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club. Be a part of the community and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntons, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Keeping my beer away from UV rays, inline flow control versus flow control faucets, and the ideal timeline for the perfect Kolsch. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 331. Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call, leave us a voicemail, get yourself a $25 gift card at 325-305-6107. I'm one of your hosts, Joshua Stubing, joined as always by my co-host. He's the director of operations at cmbecker.com over there, Mr. James, wearing every hat in the company, Carlson, today.
Yeah.
Because you're solo again. Yeah, I came up last time and didn't really help. And you know, it's funny. It's not funny. I'm using it the wrong way. I came up last week when Todd was at CBC, but I came up the second half of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I think the phone rang like twice. But then when I'm not there, like the phone, like just before we were recording, like it is just, they know you're alone. They know you're alone running operations. I mean, we have a great staff of people, but you're like, when it comes to technical questions and all that, it ends up on your lap anyway. So I will, I hate jinxing it, because I always say I'll keep it short, and then we go for an hour and some odd minutes. But I really did. I didn't bring feedback in, and I only did 3 questions. So we should have a great episode lined up for people. I'm not even going to dilly-dally with irrelevant small talk. I'll start off by saying, I'll do my best. I can't make promises. I'll do my best.
We got listeners going, nah, I don't believe that.
Yeah, they're like, what a liar. He is such a liar, that guy. Todd is out. He's doing an in-service with one of our partner companies, Faucets Equipment, who does a great job equipping beer installers across the country and homebrew supply shops with all their needs for draft equipment, for dispensing, all that good stuff. And so CM Becker works very close with Faucets, and Todd's out in their Denver office doing an in-service on all things CM Becker flow control, I believe is the primary focus, or is it all products, or pardon me, all faucets?
Just CM Becker faucets.
Yeah, just the faucets, right? Yeah. Not just flow control, but all of the faucets. Yeah. Because I know, funny enough, I'm using words wrong today. I thought it was funny because this is like a niche of an inside joke, not even inside joke, inside information for the industry. Rotary faucets have gotten popular again. What's up with that? That's kind of cool.
New product. I think anything that looks different, they're going to be, oh yeah, let's do that. Like the side pull, that was a super popular faucet, but that's a $300 faucet. So
they're very expensive, but they look cool. Remember when we were in Prague, I think every bar we went to had them. Luker, right? Is how you pronounce it? L-U? Yeah. Luker. Very cool. Our counterpart Stefan in Germany had a German word for it, but I believe the most common brand is Luker, but you're right. Yeah. They're very expensive. But the rotary, I know y'all been, the RV 900 from CM Becker, y'all been pushing them out the door a lot. That is actually what you have on your kegerator at home or on your keezer, is a bunch of rotary valves, isn't it?
Yep. I had them for going on 2 years now.
And Todd uses
great. You just got to keep them clean because the way that valve is inside, it contacts the interior of that machine portion of the body stainless steel. It has a tapered hole, and then it has the factory uses a molded type of special plastic. They have a mold for it. And that internal valve is basically just an internal gateway that connects the inlet to the outlet, which is the nozzle. And all that surface area, that tapered valve, that internal valve is touching. So over time, it can get dirtied with old beer residue, and it basically will glue it into place. So you've got rotary valves work really good. They just need to be maintained and cleaned a lot more than a forward sealing faucet or a conventional faucet.
Like a good looking woman. My wife is beautiful, but gosh, the high maintenance. Oh, it's just terrible. No, I'm kidding.
It's ideal for water.
Well, I just say, because you're right.
Water,
nothing sticking.
Nothing sticks. Yeah, you don't have, unless you're serving water, you'll need to clean it at least once a month.
Todd has I liked how Todd implemented it, and I think I would do the same, where he has V10s for every other faucet, but his Mead faucet is that RV 900, the sphere shaped rotary valve faucet. Beautiful. And it's like, I like it because it obviously you look at the teaser and you go, what is that tap? That's different. And then it says Mead, right? Which is like a reserve. You're not drinking Mead and more. I mean, we were doing in like 4 ounce increments, maybe an 8 ounce pour, but 4 was perfect.
Yeah, you don't want a pint glass of Mead.
Definitely don't. Yeah. But I'd be interested. I know you said monthly. Todd claims, he's still been on the every 2 week for cleaning. I don't think he has since his neck surgery.
He hasn't been home. So
that too. When I come up Sunday night for next week's trip, I haven't poured from that Mead and since he tapped it like 3 months ago. So
it's good.
It was great, but I just mean, I hope no one else has either, because when it's stuck, I can give him grief. I can be like, you liar, you did not clean this faucet every 2 weeks.
No, I pulled off of it. That's the first time I had Mead Friday night at his place when the New Zealanders, the Kiwis came in. And so, it worked fine. So
a couple of things about that trip with the New Zealanders coming in. Did y'all end up opening that keg of alt beer that was upstairs?
No.
Ha! Yeah! Whoo! I had suggested
it's
it.
Still in the cooler, but
okay.
They kept drinking the California Common. That was their popular beer.
Really? It's good.
Yeah.
The English mild he has on tap is still probably my favorite that he has on tap, but it was all good. Todd has great beer on tap. I don't have to butter him up. He's not here. Screw that guy. He left us again. So Todd's out of town again. Oh, let me go over some homebrew con stuff. Friends, I think I misspoke last week when I was like, oh, it's Friday the 21st. No, it's not. It's all these screens up here, and I don't have the right one. There it is. Serving your homebrew, all about draft beer systems. We're presenting at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, June 23rd. And our title, Serving Your Homebrew, all about draft beer systems. It's in the clubs, competitions, and culture track. We would love for you to come hang out with us at the Town and Country Resort in beautiful San Diego, California, June 22nd through the 24th. I think they're doing some special pricing still. It's not the early bird. Y'all missed out if you haven't bought it yet. But let's be real. People who know they're going to HomebrewCon probably already bought their ticket. I suspect the people not in the early bird are locals that might be like, I heard they're bringing back the day pass for Saturday. And like, that's like the social day, which happens to be the day we're going to be hanging out and recording at the Muntins booth. So come find us when we get their booth number. I'll publish that in the show notes and verbalize it as well on the show. But I know we're super excited to hang out with the Muntins crew. We've been brewing with their grains now a lot lately, and you specifically, James, have been a brewing monster trying to get stuff ready for HomebrewCon. Have you tried the non-alcoholic stuff yet? Did you do a test run?
Brewed it.
Okay, I knew you wanted to do a test run of a small batch test run, and then trying to refine it as best as we can in the short amount of time. The good thing is there's no fermentation, so it could be a Friday that we do it, right? I mean, it's a very real time
it's
thing.
literally you have to purge a keg with CO2, so you don't oxidize it. It literally, as long as if you were able to cool that down to carbonation temps like in the 30s, you could probably drink it that same day. But it's got some dry hopping, so
it'll be interesting.
It's going to make it a couple to that.
Right. I mean, the turnaround is super quick. And so it'll be interesting. When we were on that call with Muntins about it, I think I was, brutally honest of like, I don't suspect it's going to be something I like, but that's not to say the task that we kind of took this as is making it as pleasurable of a tasting experience as we can, because we've had non-alcoholic beer in our lives before, and Todd will say it's like decaf coffee, which is, I actually like decaf coffee, but he uses that as a derogatory comparison. Like, you can tell the difference, blah, blah, blah. I will agree with him. Yeah, I've never had a non-alcoholic beer that I couldn't tell the difference, but I like the challenge because it's kind of saying, James, make a good tasting non-alcoholic beer. And you're taking it serious. I like it. We got the hops from Hops Direct to play around with. Obviously, the extract, the non-alcoholic extract, LME, liquid malt extract from our friends at Muntins. So we're very excited about HomebrewCon. And let me just segue that while I'm flying through this too. Trub Club members who are receiving recipes this month, you're getting a delicious English mild. Speaking of our British friends, of course, it is a delicious table beer. I was just talking about the one Todd had on tap. My pop still has a good amount on tap. It is one of my favorite beers to enjoy lately. Low ABV, kind of a biscuity finish, very proper English beer that I was going to do my English accent, but I'm refraining. Todd's not here. With premium ingredients from our friends at Muntins, Hops Direct, and of course, Imperial yeast to top it off. I love it. I hope that you want to come brew with us. So go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join a recipe receiving tier of the Trub Club. Come brew with us. You won't regret it. I promise. And if you do regret it, sometimes I break promises, but I've not had apparently Patreon has a exit survey section. I think I knew this, but I don't remember the last time I looked at it, where when people leave the Trub Club on Patreon, it says why. Never had a negative one, James, that I've read. I haven't gone back on all of them, but they're all like, oh yeah, money or budgeting, or I'm not caught up on brewing as it is, or whatever tier that they're at. A lot of the ones, it's the lower tier, and they're like, yeah, I just figured you got tired of getting $1 a month. I'm like, no, we're not tired of that. But we sincerely appreciate everyone who joins at whatever level. And again, even if you're not in the Patreon version of our Trub Club, if you're just in our Facebook group, the super duper, just the Trub Club. Todd made me change that name. But if you go on Facebook and find that, or you follow us on social, if you just interact with us or even download the show to listen, we greatly appreciate it. And I sincerely mean that, because I'm a terrible solicitor where I wish every episode I'd be like, please join the Trub Club. Todd's going to fire me if we don't have more members paying for this stuff. But we're at actually doing pretty good. I'm happy with the amount of people we have brewing. It's a good, since we're doing everything in house, I like it. It's manageable. We ship out 30 some odd kits a month right now, and going up there and making that many kits in a day is just about right for me. That's about the amount of manual labor I want to do every month, James. But anyways, again, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and join the Chub Club. Come brew with us. I believe that's all the small talk I've got, and I don't have listener feedback, so flying right through the first 15-ish minutes of this show, our first question of the 3 I've got lined up for this week is a voicemail from our buddy Keith from Maryland.
Gentlemen, this is Keith from Maryland. I've always heard to keep your beer out of sunlight due to UV rays ruining your beer. I don't have any real temperature controls available to me, so I ferment my beer in my house wherever the temperature is going to be the most steady and within the temperature range of whatever yeast I'm using. This can be in the basement in the spring and fall or upstairs in the winter and summer. When I'm fermenting upstairs and not in the basement, there's going to be more natural light coming through. My question is, if I keep the glass carboy in a box with only the airlock sticking out and cover the box with a black blanket, am I okay, or are those UV rays still going to cause problems? Assume I have no closet space to put a carboy in. In other words, when I'm fermenting upstairs, the carboy has to be sitting in a room. James and Todd, I don't know how you would ever do without Josh. He is the best. Thanks, have a good day, and cheers.
These listeners know how to get their stuff played on the show. Man. They know. They're getting really smart. I appreciate it. Thank you, Keith, for submitting that. It's a great question. We all know the horror stories of skunky beer, James. I think specifically everyone's experience is probably with Corona or any green bottle. Heineken, I guess, could skunkify, and left outside. And you open it and it smells like Cheech and Chong or a skunk. It's stinky. It skunkifies the hop presence that's in there, and it's gross. But that happens post packaging. What is it about?
It has to be. He's exactly right. The UV rays can cause the skunky beer smell, and hence Corona. That's a clear bottle. So, but he's doing exactly. If you do a cardboard box over the carboy, if you remember, I used to do that when we were before we had the addition. In fact, one of the first beers I brewed here when I started back in 2015 was a red beer, and I kept it in Todd's office because he was gone, and that was the coolest room in all the offices. And that's what I did is I took a big enough cardboard box, cut a hole in the top for the air valve, the bubbler, and just stuck it right over it. So you don't need to worry about a towel over that as well. Just as long as you're covering it with something, that's all you got to do. When I first started brewing beer, I used a black towel, and I would just wrap the towel around the carboy, and I put it in a closet in my kitchen. If I had beer in there, well, then I'd keep it in the spare bedroom.
Right.
Once again, just throw a towel over it. That's all you need.
I was going to say, so when I brew here at home base, not my pops, usually most of our brewing's done there, but it's actually kind of a similar situation. We are like this room. I have, I have that big old window right there. This is, this converted garage office I have. But I ferment right in the middle here. I drop the mini split down to whatever temperature range. Like if, doing the Kolsch, I'm taking it down to the 60 somethings and, leaving it at that during fermentation. And I just cover it, like you said, with a towel.
Another even super easy option is just a trash can, like a kitchen trash can bag.
Yeah.
And then just take the sealed in and fold it in half, and that will find your center. And then I take that center of that trash bag and take a pair of scissors and just pinch a little bit of it up, cut that off. It'll create a perfect circle. Throw that over the carboy. That works as well. Anything you can do to cover it.
Todd frequently does that. I mean, that mead, talking about the mead earlier, he had fermenting for a year, or maybe it was,
it was a year.
Right at a year. And that's all it was. And he still had it tucked in a room that had no natural light. But remember, that's exactly what he did. He covered it with that trash bag method. And it turned out great. UV was not able to get and with like in this room or like my dad's where we ferment out in the open of his big. You've been in his big game room. As long as it's covered, right? I mean, what like obviously like
with anything.
There you go. I was going to say, because I welcome any scientists who want to comment and actually the principal properties of UV can penetrate or like, I welcome that, but my simple mind's like, I haven't had a batch ruin from UV. Now, what is the skunkiness the telltale sign of?
And it takes
even
a while.
During
it
fermentation?
has to be sunlight.
Okay.
No, well, I mean, it can, anytime that light's natural light, like, excuse me, if you've got a house that's got all LED lights in it, they don't give off any UV rays. So,
that's a good point. I didn't even think about artificial.
So most
light.
Incandescent light does.
Yeah.
Natural sunlight does. Not really sure about the gas lights. You know, the little coil. It's not LED. It's almost like a neon bulb.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they even sell those anymore. I think everything went to LEDs.
I was going to say, is incandescent illegal? Or I always
you can still buy them at the stores, but I think in just the unique bulbs. I think that just the standard bulbs, and I could be wrong. I haven't seen. I guess we went to Home Depot. They probably have regular incandescent bulbs. But
I
was under the assumption
LED.
that they were. The government wasn't allowing them to manufacture those.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
So. That being said, if your whole house is LEDs, don't forget you got the light coming in through the windows that can cause that too. It might take a while. I've never run into that because I've always been probably over prepped on that. Closed closet, then you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
A room with the light turned off and really good mini blinds to hide the UV light will work too. But I think for the most part, easiest fix is a black trash bag, cut a hole in the end, just slide it over the conical or the whatever fermenter you're using,
the vessel,
and you're golden, you're good.
But
it won't be an issue.
But I am curious now. I should have Googled it, but I don't mind being the idiot on the show. I that's my shtick. I can fill it. I know post packaging, like specifically bottles. I know skunkiness is oh crap, the sun got to this. Is it that same effect if it happened during fermentation? Like are you if I left my beer right in front of this window uncovered and it's just fermenting with all this natural light on it, is it gonna be skunky by the time I keg it? Is that the only effect that happens?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would be the same as if it's in the bottles and then it gets UV on it.
Right.
Okay. I've never heard. I mean, I don't know if I've heard of anybody anecdotally ruining their batch with UV rays during fermentation. I've heard of people with bottles happen frequently, right? Like, I left bottles out in the yard, or I was, I mean, and I don't even know how long it takes. Is it a couple of hours?
It takes a long
UV?
time.
Okay, it does take a
while.
while. Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to happen in a few days. It takes, a couple of weeks for that to happen.
Okay. Well, so yeah, Keith, I think the way you described you doing it is more than adequate, because you're just keeping it covered. But again, friends of the show, leave a comment. If you're watching at youtube.com/Homebrew Happy Hour, leave us a comment what we might be missing or what we got wrong. Or you'd be saying, no, cardboard doesn't protect from UV or whatever. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe we're just speaking out of our butts. But we haven't had a batch ruined from UV yet. So I'm going to say, James, we are the definitive experts on UV protection from our beers. I just slather SPF 50 on my carboy, and that just seems to do the trick. But I'm kidding, I swear. But Keith, thank you so much for submitting the question. A reminder, if and when you use our hotline for a voicemail at 325-305-6107, you get yourself a $25 gift card to KegConnection.com, courtesy of the absent but still texting me for some reason, even though he knows we're recording right now, Todd Burns. He must be out of his meeting. Anyways, so moving on to question number 2. Our buddy Garrett, using the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, Garrett wrote, "Hi, HBHH, longtime listener, first-time questioner. I've got a question for Todd and James," well, Todd's not here, "about inline flow controls. Do you think that flow control faucets are the better choice? I'm using normal faucets that are the default selection on your TKTHKK kegging kit. Quickly realized that flow control would be nice to have if I do buy the inlines. Any tips for me? I love the podcast. I also love the HBHH website. People need to know that it's full of incredibly useful information. He was sucking up to us. I love it. Cheers. Garrett, first thing, I always wondered the debate, James, I call it HHH because I think homebrew is one word, but most people, I say most, a lot of people text me as HBHH because they say homebrew is two words. We're going to need the American Homebrewers Association. Actually, no, they use it, homebrewers, as one word. So I think I'm right. We had to change the spelling of draft from DRAFT to DRAUGHT because they said that's the official way the Brewers Association recognizes that word. So I'm going to say, so I'm going to say if the AHA is saying homebrewers is one word, it's HHH Garrett. But anyways, no, I'm needlessly picking on a fan of the show. Flow control versus inline. I'll start it by saying, if you want to stay within a budget and not change your faucets, inline is a perfect solution because the only thing you're doing is adding that inline, changing the diameter of the tubing from the I guess not on both sides. On the dispense side, or pardon me, from keg to the inline, you want it to be as big as possible, don't you?
Yeah. With a traditional flow control faucet.
With the inline, with the inlines though, what is the setup? Is it as big? Like you're going from disconnect to a 5/16 tubing to the inline flow control, and then 5/16 up to your faucet, or 3/16 from there? Like, what is the ideal setup?
It just depends on what you're serving. If it's water, you can get by a quarter. If it's beer, and let's say it's a highly carbonated beer, then you may have to do 5/16 on the inlet, maybe a quarter on the outlet. If it's just regular standard normal beer, you can do it the same size on both ends. Just you need it as close to the faucet as possible. That seems to help more. And also if you're doing, we've had people order the inline flow control and then order the 4 millimeter nipples, and it's absolutely useless with 3/16 tubing because the whole point is the resistance is you're balancing in the inline flow control mechanism, which is that little top bullet inside it. I wish I had one to show you, and I don't, but it's a clear body and it's got a white bullet. Now the sharp point of the bullet is always the inlet side, and it comes with an Allen wrench, and you can actually move that bullet inside. It interfaces with a cavity in the inlet side or the shank side of the inline flow control, and you can literally shut the flow of fluid off with just the compensator. And so if you're running 3/16 tubing, you've already got too much restriction by the time it hits the inline flow control, and people have been disappointed because it just doesn't help. So get rid of the restriction. The way you can do that is you can do like a 1/4 inch barrier tubing is really smooth on the inside. So its restriction is even less than, let's say, possibly a 5/16 PVC hose, because the PVC hose tends to generate a little more resistance. And it could be the same. I hadn't really done the math on it, but I know that if you have a really good smooth inner barrier hose that's 1/4 inch ID, that'll work good too.
Yeah, and like I've always thought the inlines we treat like we do if you had flow control installed, where I'm using, the 5/16 blue tubing like y'all have shown and the presentation we did for HomebrewCon Online 2020, pardon me, where we showed kegerators and all that. I like that a lot. It seems to work well. Now, another pro, talking about flow control faucets versus inline flow control. The benefit of if you're utilizing the inlines are almost always either an afterthought of like, I have my existing system. I really didn't.
That's exactly why you would do that.
Right. Yeah. Very rarely.
You don't want to change. Yeah. If you don't want to change out, because you think about it, you have to change out the faucet, the shank, the lines, everything.
Yeah. Or if you have, like, I do know one person who ordered it intentionally this way. So what they did, They ordered a tower kit from us. This was last year, or it might have been 2020. I forget it's 2023. Oh my God. This might have been 2 years ago. Either way, I remember helping the guy. It was right when I took over the help inbox. And now that I say that, if I don't reply to y'all's emails in the help inbox, don't tell Todd. Right when I took over the help inbox, this guy wanted a cylinder tower and he wanted flow control. And we were like, with Sam Becker, you're not going to be able to put 2 on there. It's just the size of the shanks. So what he did was he had a V3S on one side and an X1 on the other side. And he put Inline on that V3S side and was able to have both lines now technically be flow control and creamer, right? So it was perfect because it was like the best of both worlds in regards to he could keep that cylinder tower on his kegerator because T-towers are very expensive. They do increase the cost pretty dramatically. As much as I love them, they're not necessarily budget friendly. So inline flow controls though are incredibly budget friendly for the solution that they're letting you implement. They're right in line with most people's budgets, and it gives you real full compensation flow control on that liquid line. So I know you use it in the break room on the water, so that way because you're shoving 40 psi. I don't know what we're doing the sparkling
I think
water.
it's
30
40 or 50. I can't remember.
And you don't want the faucet to have to
Yeah, it'll spray like crazy full throttle. So we use that to just get it at a serving pressure.
Which is, again, the other implementation I see this used most commonly is people like having water on tap at a high PSI, not wanting to overload whatever standard kind of faucet they have. But talking about comparing it to flow control faucets, if budget wasn't an issue, would you agree with me in saying flow control faucets is superior out of anything? Yeah. Just the ease of having the access to it right there on board while you're pouring. That's my only beef, and it's not even a big beef with inline flow control, is the adjustments. You have to have the door open or whatever way that you have it installed, whether it's a front door or a keezer door. When you're trying to adjust it in real time, right? It's a little bit more laborious. Again,
there's a little leeway. You can get it in the ballpark, and then it's not. So people out there that have one of those, they're not always tweaking on it. So the good thing about inline flow control, you can get it dialed in and just leave it alone.
Right. No, totally ballpark. I just mean there are times that it is minor inconvenience is that it's not as easy to adjust in real time. Like when I'm pouring from a V10 or an X1, it is like, oh, that's coming. Let me slow it down a little, just like that, as opposed to like, oh, let me slow it down. It's still super simple. And like you said, the Allen wrench adjustment makes it just easy to screw it in. And like most of the time, you dial it into a ballpark range that's going to work 99% of the time. And then when you do need to change it, you just stop the flow, go change it real quick and all that. But yeah, you would agree with me that if you can implement the faucets, that is the ideal way to have flow control on each line.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. So Garrett, I think we covered that. Thank you so much for submitting that question. James, I'm not lying. I didn't jinx us. We're in record time going into the last question, which I may or may not drag out longer than intended. It's a text message from our buddy Roy using our hotline at 325-305-6107. Roy wrote, "Sorry I missed Kolsch Cup this year. It filled up before I found out." It did fill up quick, Roy. "I do have a Kolsch Cup related question. What is the ideal time frame for your perfect Kolsch? From brew day to first pouring. In ideal circumstances, how much time do you allow before tapping into your Kolsch? I did receive my recipe kit from Trub Club with plans to brew it this weekend. Thanks." This is kind of an older text. Sorry, Roy, for just now taking it. But brew day went well for him and yada, yada, yada. But this is obviously a question meant for you, James. I'm going to let you know. I'm kidding. Let me take the lead on this one. That's the beautiful thing about Kolsch and living in 2023 with incredible yeast from our friends at Imperial. Dieter, I think the last time I brewed the Kolsch, which went quick, my sister-in-law ended up floating 2 kegs of it. She didn't drink all of both kegs, but she happened to be the last one to get a pour from both of them. I'm not still bitter about that. But Everyone at the party loved it. It turned out great. I think the Dieter finished out in 3 days. Like I'm rounding up.
Yeah, generally just Kolsch with fresh imperial yeast. It's 3 days.
So it finished out at 3 days, and I let it. You and Todd, or mainly Todd, are more sticklers for the numbers. Like if Todd sees it at like 10:09, he's like, "Oh, I better stop it now," and this whatever. I'm Mr. Convenience, where I'm like, you know what? When it's done, is how I took the approach for the last couple.
Yeah, and we've actually, if you remember, we've actually kegged and drafted week-old Kolsch.
We had that's what I was going to say with Roy's question. I mean, the idea, if I can ideally 5 to 6 weeks of lagering or cold conditioning rather, is my and I made up 6 weeks from, let me pull the book out. I put it on my table. I got this book in like 2019 or 2020. I highly recommend it. It'll be in the show notes. If you're on YouTube, it'll be in the description below. The Kolsch book from Eric Warner. Also, just a shout out, he didn't write that. He didn't write the Kolsch book, but I also have the alt book from our friend Horst Dornbush, who we're talking about getting him back on the show very soon. We've been in email with him. I can't wait for that. The alt beer book, very worth getting. But you want to learn about Kolsch and why I love it, get the Kolsch book. It's in the show notes. This walks you through the history of it, the proper serving of it. This book says modern brewers usually do 6 to 8 weeks. And when I had read that, I was like, 6 weeks sounds good. I didn't just pull it from thin air, but it is kind of arbitrary because that last batch I had was maybe 3 weeks old and people loved it. And it was super clear, 3 weeks from brewing. And so I'll say it was like, I don't know, 10 days like 16 days of cold conditioning and then serving, and 16 days was more than enough to get it super clear. It was a beautifully presented beer. It was crisp, not a lot going on. People loved it.
But what I would say is, that's an indication of the yeast that you're using. Dieter is a highly flocculent yeast, so it clumps together and settles out at the bottom. If you're using a typical German strain, one that if you're somehow able to, let's say you went to Peter's in Cologne and talked them into some yeast, I would think that they're probably using a heritage strain. Those tend to be pretty powdery, so they're less flocculent. So what happens is it kind of stays in suspension and it kind of floats around in the beer, and that would be the reason why I say this is lagering time for clarity really makes a big difference on the type of yeast you use. So if you were going to use the Dieter, which is excellent, by the way, we've seen it almost, I wouldn't say bright right out after primary fermentation, but it's been pretty darn close. You know, that beer that we did and served in a week, it wasn't super clear, but it wasn't hazy
delicious.
at all.
It was delicious. So, yeah.
If you want read newspaper through, you want something clear like that in a beer, you're talking 6 to 8 weeks lagering, depending on the yeast.
And I think that's why the book said that. I mean, so talking about tradition stuff, like, do you think the breweries in Cologne are still doing open fermentation? I know the ones in Dusseldorf are. I know that, but I've never actually you have talked to the brewer at Schlussel, and he told you everything.
He does open fermentation.
He told you everything you wanted to know except for getting your hands on their yeast. That's the only thing.
I would say the process between the two towns, because they're relatively close together, they're 30 miles apart, probably going to be the same. They're probably, a lot of that equipment was probably sourced from the same people years and years and years ago. The process is probably the same. There may be some little differences as far as step mashing and temperatures, but we're talking fermentation and lagering and all of that.
Yeah.
It's funny how they're both using almost the same kind of yeast, but creating totally different products.
Yeah.
So if I'm out of, I don't know about y'all, but if I'm out of alt beer yeast, I'll use a Kolsch yeast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You've told us before.
And I would be pressed to anybody that could tell the difference.
I agree.
Some of the hard horse could, but I would say most people, because the grain bill is so different, than alt beer uses such more roasted malts than Kolsch. And along with the hopping too, Kolsch is a lightly hopped beer. Alt beer is a highly hopped beer.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, that's my favorite beer.
And I was just about to make fun of you. You always take my thunder. I was going to be like, yeah, man, tell us more. Well, yeah, your old username was Hophead. Come on. The James of the past is
I just kind of got overboard. I went nuts with IPAs to the point where it just burned me out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it happens to a lot of people. One of my other favorite things about this book, Roy, the Kolsch book, is so people know we've published it in the Kolsch kit that we send out. My go-to is super straightforward. 8 pound for a 5-gallon recipe, 8 pounds of Pilsen, 1 pound of Vienna. And then the hop edition is just an ounce of Hallertau middle fruit for 60. I know sometimes you add wheat to yours, don't you?
Not Kolsch. No.
Okay, I don't know why. Maybe Todd did. Somebody at one point, which
a lot of some of the brewing Kolsch will do that.
Totally,
but
yeah.
I don't know if you would mention that to any of the brewers in Cologne. They would probably tell you get out of their brewery.
Well, and it's funny though, and it's
the Reinheitsgebot, so they have they're under the purity law there.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
The recipes in here, what I was going with Roy, it shows you this broad spectrum. Like some of these call for pearl, some of these are using tetanus, and obviously middle fruit is real popular in these recipes. It just shows you, like, one of the things I love about Kolsch Cup is not everyone's sending like people think when I tell people go get Fru, and because in the United States there's not a ton of options for good Kolsch, but when I tell them get Fru or get Gaffel, well, Fru and Gaffel are different enough to where that's a great comparison. Get Reisdorf, get Fru, get Gaffel, and you'll realize all of these are great Kolsch, and they're noticeably different. And what I like about Fru is dry like a cloud or whatever, but Gaffel has a little more of that Pilsner bite to me, and Reisdorf's a little bit on the sweeter side. With Fru also has some fruitier notes to it than Gaffel would, and it's just when we do Kolsch Cup, it's like that where we have a broad spec. Now, the last time we did Kolsch Cup, someone did send was it a mosaic hopped? Remember that one where it was a good beer, but we're like, it's not a Kolsch.
It was and we got a bunch of what they call Kolsch IPAs.
We did, right? That's what. People. It wasn't bad beer, but we were like, it's not a Kolsch. It's not. We have the IBJJF book right here. IBJJF, that's jujitsu. We have the BJCP guidebook with us. The one person who also trains out there is laughing at me. The BJCP guidebook, which was what we go by for our score sheets, rather. But anyways, what I also bring up Kolsch Cup because we are starting to receive them. I've heard from you and from our shipping department that it is crunch time, my friend. We're getting close to Kolsch Cup, so what a great time to bring up Kolsch, the perfect Kolsch, and drinking Kolsch and reading about Kolsch. But I think I've set my quota for Kolsch and the word Kolsch for this episode. To wrap up the question, Todd bought from Independence. I forget the word. It's the German word for like spirit train or something. And I found a Kolsch from Real Ale. These are all domestic. It made me think we should do, when I go up there the next couple times before Kolsch Cup, we should do little one-off short video segments of like the road to Kolsch Cup and where people can get good domestic Kolsch. Because for the longest time, I was like, you want a good Kolsch, just get Fru. Because I hadn't had, like, somebody years ago was like, oh, Karbach, bro, get Karbach. Their Love Street is a perfect Kolsch. And they even changed the name to Blonde because I think people realize it's not a Kolsch. It was never a Kolsch. We have a brewery kind of in the area that's award winning, and we don't think that their Kolsch is a Kolsch, right? Like it's been disheartening, but lately, like that Independence one and the Real Ale one are knocking it out of the park. It's like, oh my God. And there's more breweries doing Kolsch, and people are sending me Instagram DMs of like, have you had this Kolsch yet? I'm like, oh my God, look at all these domestic Kolsch. So I think doing a video on domestic Kolsch's or multiple.
Oh
videos,
yeah. It's an untapped flavor. I actually had a brewer, a guy that owns a brewery, call me yesterday wanting to know if I'd be interested in doing some brewing. More importantly, brewing a Kolsch for his brewery.
You said yes, right?
Nah, I just told him what the recipe was. Because, I mean, right now, we've got so much going on.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got my daughter, she's graduating this week, and that's been a whole week. And I'm sure it'll probably be next week, too. We've got to get the brewing done, finish up the brewing done for the Homebrew Con.
Yeah.
We've got a lot going on. I just honestly don't have the time.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You're right. There is a lot going on at headquarters and a lot to prepare for. It is the trade show season has kicked off and hasn't stopped. And then, like you said, all the other stuff just kind of adds on to it.
And that I don't know his system. It's a 20 barrel, I believe, is what he's brewing on. Now I have to scale my recipe up. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but probably not right now. Not until the end of July.
Right.
You know.
Well, if you end up doing that, you let me know because I will bring the camera and we will document this. It will be.
You can help me grind the malt. How about that?
No. I got to
cure you ever want to do anything like that.
I've just got a film, bro. You remember when we recorded at Teddy's and I forget what Todd was asking me to do, and I was like, "Sorry, man, I'm capturing B-roll." Like I'm the ultimate excuse finder. Anyway, though, we're at like the 40-something minute mark. I told you I'd get you in and out quick. I'm gonna live up to that. I'm not
Good
dragging
deal.
this out.
Yeah, I've got. I'm in the process of doing this podcast, I've got like 5 fires that just lit up.
I was like, YouTube watchers are seeing you and being like, Josh, put it on you on the screen so we don't have to stare at James frantically working and trying to appease you. Anyways, Roy, thank you for submitting that question. Guys, or guy, Todd's not here. Screw you, Todd, you're absent. James, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Oh, you bet.
I can't do the show by myself. I appreciate it. I'm going to see you Monday, so enjoy the rest of your week.
You too.
All right. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com. Click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or you can call Be Todd's best friend. Leave us a voicemail at 325-305-6107. Thank you to our sponsors like Munton's Malt. Premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Munton's Malts, give them a try by visiting txbrewing.com or join our Chub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join the Chub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of the absent Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.